I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking, I've always wanted to lead a warband of tough guy mercenaries across a vaguely Teutonic, medieval fantasy landscape, drifting from town to town, selling our sword arms to the highest bidder. And you're probably also thinking, when are these video game people going to make a game that speaks to me? A video game for my unique tastes? Well, you're in luck, ladies and gentlemen, because that's exactly what Battle Brothers is all about. So without any further ado, this is Battle Brothers. You play as the leader of a mercenary warband, after being thrust into the role as the previous leader is killed in battle during a tutorial mission. After completing the first revenge mission, it's an open-world adventure across a medieval fantasy world of... no. There's two basic game modes to Battle Brothers. The first is the real-time map mode, where you guide your mercenaries around the world by clicking on the map and watching them trudge over to that place you just clicked. You essentially travel from town to town, looking for contracts to take. This is the one gripe I have with the beginning game of Battle Brothers. Since the missions are procedurally generated, sometimes you'll come across a situation where there's nothing for your warband to do, and you'll end up wandering around hemorrhaging money and food while you find a suitable mission. And your guys expect to be paid and eat up all their food regardless of their employment prospects. Later in the game, you'll have enough renown and reputation that you can take on more missions, so it's a problem that'll slowly disappear. I haven't had it happen very often, but it's pretty annoying when it does happen. Some of the villages have these little problems, like getting attacked by bandits, or people wandering away to get slaughtered by ghouls in the night, never to return, and so they're suspicious of strangers. Usually you can take a contract where you solve this problem for them, and your reputation in the village will increase. The second game mode is the turn-based battle sequences. While the hex-based fighting looks rather simplistic, especially with these somewhat abstract bust figurines representing the combatants, but it is really complicated. And there's so much to the combat in this game that it's almost unbelievable. Terrain is important, elevation's important, fatigue is really important. Also morale is really important. Like morale's really, really important. Zones of control are really important too. And when I say really important, I don't mean that it'll give you like a little bonus to your attack stat or something like that. I mean that by being careful about keeping your guys' morale up, and keeping them from crossing enemy zones of control, you'll have a significantly higher chance of winning than if you don't. I think every time I lost a battle in kind of a dumb way in this game, it's always because I got impatient and started clicking away without very methodically surveying the battlefield and thinking things through. I mean, it's turn-based for a reason, so there's no rush. Patience and tactics are what you need to cultivate for Battle Brothers in order to succeed. For example, I mentioned zones of control. Every combatant who has a melee weapon exerts a zone of control over all of the hexes adjacent to that combatant. Anyone who attempts to leave one of those hexes will suffer an automatic strike from that combatant. If the strike misses, the person can leave the hex normally. If it hits, their move is cancelled and they stay put. This is a problem if you're panicked and fleeing across many character zones of control. This is partially why morale is really important. That's just one aspect of the combat. There's so many others I can make an entire video just droning on about the complex combat of this game. For example, each weapon has combat skills that are associated with it. Take for example a spear, it has a thrust, but also a spear wall skill that enables your character to just kind of hold their spear out in front of them and stick anybody who comes near them. And the AI reacts to you having a bunch of guys lined up with their spears jutted out. They'll try and move around and attack from the sides instead. But the unintelligent monsters just charge headlong into the spears and you'll get free attacks on them. And for some reason, cleaver weapons have a decapitate special attack, with dramatic results if it succeeds. Pretty dramatic result. After battle, the survivors get experience and level up, improving their skills, and you pick perks for them in the typical fashion. If they get severely injured, it's possible that they'll walk away with a permanent injury. Here's one of my guys I was using just kind of as a meat shield, and he just wouldn't die. He was a crippled beggar when I recruited him into the warband, and he just kept getting beat up. After a while, I kept just saying, why won't this guy die? Oh my god. Speaking of crippled beggars, The quality of potential recruits in each town is affected by the town's size and economic status. The smaller towns have beggars, shepherds, and other varieties of rabble, but they're cheaper to hire and they don't cost as much to keep on. Larger towns have escaped killers and former soldiers and more capable personnel, but they're also more expensive. Each man has individual morale. Some will be happier in your ranks than others. Winning battles and completing contracts naturally improves morale. Getting your ass kicked will make morale drop, of course. It's all noted on the character sheet in almost eye-bleeding levels of detail. The hand-drawn graphics in this game are amazing. Each little character bust reflects exactly what they're wearing and what weapon they're using. When they get injured, their faces get bruised and bloodied. Despite the lack of animations, the artwork is so awesome I find myself not caring one little bit. So you'll end up gaining renown and money as you complete contracts, leveling up your mercenaries and getting better equipment. You can pick little goals for the warband called ambitions, and those give you rewards when you achieve them, and there's various sundry little ambitions that you can pick from. You have interesting random encounters depending on who's in the warband and what part of the world you're in. Eventually, you'll deal with a worldwide crisis. Either a war between noble families, an undead uprising, or an orc invasion. You can pick what the crisis will be when you set up your game or have the computer randomly generated. The crisis really alters the map, with orc war camps springing up everywhere or towns getting sacked by rival noble houses. And the orcs in this game are really, really tough, actually. I got my ass kicked by them multiple times. I just failed to record any of it, so there's basically no photographic evidence of the shame of my having to remove an orc boot from my rectum. Anyhow, this game is amazingly deep, and I could easily make an hour-long video about it, so I'm gonna end here. It's a must-have if you like open-world, turn-based strategy. I'm really enjoying it, and it's well worth the price. It's just a simply amazing